The name Khalkhin Gol entered military history on the eve of the Second World War. In the summer of 1939, Soviet-Mongolian and Japanese-Manchukuoan forces clashed along the river, known in Japan as the Nomonhan Incident. The conflict grew far beyond an ordinary border skirmish. Tens of thousands of soldiers took part, supported by hundreds of aircraft and tanks. Its outcome forced the Japanese military to reconsider the development of its armored forces and became one of the factors that pushed Japan toward expansion to the south rather than another war with the Soviet Union. The immediate cause was a dispute over the exact location of the border between the Mongolian People's Republic and Manchukuo. Behind it, however, lay a broader struggle between the Soviet Union and Japan for influence in the region. In June, the Japanese forces were reinforced by the Yasuoka Detachment, commanded by General Masaomi Yasuoka. It included several types of tanks, among them the medium Type 89 Ego and the recently introduced Type 97 Chiha. By then, the Ego was already noticeably outdated, making the Chiha seem like a new generation vehicle by comparison. Its suspension, designed by Tomio Hara, provided a smooth ride, while its diesel engine was considered reliable and undemanding. Yet the Chiha had also been designed primarily for infantry support. Its short-barreled 57mm gun was intended mainly for engaging troops and fortifications, while its relatively thin armor offered little protection against Soviet guns. The Soviet-Mongolian forces were also preparing for the decisive battles. Armored cars and fast BT tanks were sent to Khalkhin Gol. They covered only part of the journey by rail and then continued to the front under their own power. Their armor was thin, but their high speed allowed them to carry out deep flanking maneuvers. That was precisely what the Soviet command intended to exploit. Heavier tanks such as the T-28 were far more difficult to transport and supply in such a remote region, while the situation demanded speed. At first glance, the steppes around Khalkhin Gol appeared ideally suited to tank attacks. In open terrain, however, armored vehicles became easy targets for anti-tank guns. The air battle initially swung back and forth, allowing aircraft from both sides to launch regular strikes against ground targets. The small number of Chiha tanks took part in the offensive, but failed to provide any decisive advantage. Soviet 45mm guns could penetrate their armor with ease, while the Japanese short-barreled cannon was poorly suited to fighting tanks. Even so, the superior firepower of Soviet armor did not give the Red Army an easy victory. Soviet forces permanently lost more than 200 tanks and armored cars. A substantial number were knocked out by Japanese anti-tank and field guns. Thin armor, poor communications, and weak coordination between tanks, infantry, and artillery all took their toll. Fast tanks would often break through Japanese defenses, but lacking support, could not consolidate their gains and were forced to withdraw. The Japanese would then restore their defensive positions. The fighting ended in September 1939. By then, the Second World War had already begun in Europe. The Soviet-Mongolian forces emerged victorious, but the price of victory was high. The Yasuoka Detachment, which had suffered heavy losses, was disbanded, and the Japanese tank regiments were gradually withdrawn to the rear. The battle demonstrated the urgent need to improve the armament of Japanese tanks. In 1941, a new version of the Chiha appeared with a redesigned turret and a long-barreled 47mm gun that was far more effective against armored targets. Victory at Khalkhin Gol also became an important milestone in the career of Georgy Zhukov, though his greatest battles still lay ahead. But that's a story for another time.